Because it's all worked out for a train. Listen, baby. There's a clause in every accident policy, a little thing called double indemnity. The insurance companies put in a sort of a come-on for the customers. That means they pay double on certain accidents. The kind that almost never happen.
Well, this is the first episode ever of Shrouded Alley, and I'm Leila Ziari, and that's Brian Marrero. Let's fucking go.
The whole thing.
This is a film noir podcast. Like, could we ever start a film noir podcast and not start with this film? Probably not. So today we're going to talk about Double Indemnity. So I do think it's one of the most important film noirs ever because, you know, it kind of just encompasses all the fucking themes that you could ever want from a noir. Okay. It's not very convoluted. It's pretty straightforward. So here we go. And it's directed by Billy Wilder, who is one of the best directors of all time.
Well, that's true. That much is true.
All right. So,
that much is true.
That is true. So this film is starring Eddie G, Edward G. Robinson.
Good old Eddie G.
It's good old Eddie G.
It's good old Eddie G.
That's what he is. Barbara Stanwyck and Fred MacMurray, which, like, I don't know how you feel about these people, because, like, you know, you don't watch as many old movies as I do.
Well, I have watched many more old movies than probably you've seen anything either. How dare you? The gall of you. Number one. So, but film noir, not super. I mean, I've seen a bunch, but I don't seek them out as intensely as I think you do.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. But I do love Edward G. Robinson. Huge fan of his. Fred MacMurray is cool. I mean, always kind of a dope. So that's like a thing, you know, and he's kind of a dope in this as well. If you really want to like get into it, he is kind of a dope in this movie, and he gets everything that's coming to him for being a dope. I feel like
he's really such a sucker, truly.
It's really a lesson in you know, don't be a sucker for a chick. Don't be
I feel like that's kind of the whole moral of this story. Don't be a sucker for a chick.
Don't be a sucker for a chick. Don't fall for the the dame in the skirt is only a flirt. And I don't know.
Which is kind of like one of the main themes of film noir in general. But
yeah, exactly. Which is again why it's probably why you picked it, because it truly is the most noir that's ever noired, if you will.
Exactly why I picked it. But like also I love seeing Eddie G in like a good guy role. So basically he's the good guy in this, which is like so ironic because we all know him as Bang Bang Shoot 'em Up gangster.
Exactly. Because my favorite Eddie G is obviously Key Largo, which I'm a huge one of my favorite movies like ever made. And
I didn't know that about you, but good.
Well, that's what this is a podcast about film noir and also exploration. Just learning each other. Our likes and dislikes, but and which he's great in that as the heavy, but then in this he's very much he's just a very smart, intuitive insurance man, which the only person that probably ever make insurance interesting.
No, truly. And also like really good at his job, but also I feel like
insanely good at his job, yeah.
But also like the true love story, I guess, in this movie, if you really want to get into it, would be
it's the two guys.
It's
the
Fred
two guys.
MacMurray and Eddie G.
We didn't talk about this before, but that was going to be one of my main things, where it's like this is a love movie, this is a love story about these two guys, like very much so, like up until like so the last words being "I love you too." Like it's right. Very much. It's very. I think maybe through 2025 lens. It's like you show this to anybody probably younger than us, they'd probably be like, "Oh yeah, those two guys are just in love with each other."
They're literally just like in love with each other, and I feel like his whole moral ambiguity really stems from like, oh shit, like I'm disappointing this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's dame in a skirt who literally sucks.
Yeah, who sucks and like who is just like who's like killed everything in her way that she's ever wanted to get rid of. Like the mom in this one,
right.
She was her nurse, and obviously the husband. And it was gonna get. If it got down to it, she was gonna try to kill the daughter.
Oh, 1,000%.
She's like sick of this bitch over her. She's truly like, if it wasn't for this meddling, bitch, I would have had this all sooner or whatever.
So yeah, that's basically, if you haven't seen it, you should watch it. The premise is... But also, let's just shout out Edith Head, who's like one of my favorite all-time costume designers ever. So she's in it, fucking icon, love everything.
Sure.
I just feel like this movie is such a heavy hitter with people like that. And like, obviously, Billy Wilder's GOAT, but
Yeah.
So basically, we'll just give a brief synopsis and go watch the fucking movie if you have.
We can.
That's insane. So basically, Eddie G is Fred MacMurray's boss, and they work at an insurance agency, and Fred MacMurray goes to Barbara Stanwyck's house to get her husband to renew his auto insurance or something.
Yeah, you got it.
He walks in and, instantaneously just disgustingly smitten with this woman.
Well, I mean, she came out in the towel and it's like, I don't blame you. It's also one of those ones where it's like, all right, listen, man, I don't blame you. I see where you're coming.
I know, but it was a little cool your jets, bud. Maybe simmer down a little bit.
No, the jets were on fire. The jets were on fire and they were on fire for a reason.
She comes down in her goddamn ankle bracelet.
She's got her anklet rocking, which I was telling you before, it's apparently a married lady with an anklet on her right leg meant that she was married but open and available. The funny thing is, though, we look back at the pictures and she's got her on her left leg, and so no matter what, he's thinking he doesn't know the rules. He's fucking anklet means down.
Anklet means down, which is
anklet means.
Yeah, I'm rewatching this movie and it's fucking my brain up. I'm like, what's the other movie? And that they do that. So Billy Wilder's obsessed with this because in Love in the Afternoon, which is not noir, but also one of my favorite movies of all time. Audrey Hepburn's trying to seduce old man Gary Cooper, and she's an inexperienced girly, but she learns this trick, and she's like, if I wear my anklet, he's gonna get jealous and think I'm infatuated with other men. Yeah. And it works. And then Gary Cooper's just sitting there on his recorder, the anklet. The anklet being
the straight heterosexual version of the hankies in cruising, in the gay scene is very, it's who knew that there was such a scandalous rules to jewelry. I mean, my God, I didn't, it's
should that be my new trick? Should I just go out with the anklet on and see what the fuck?
I don't think it counts. People are not really looking as intensely, I think, for these ankle rules of these placements, lefty, righty, whatever.
Also kind of a sign of the times because everything's sort of
well, because everything's coded, everything's coded. Communist, blah, 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 whatever.
And this movie came out in 1944, which is 10 years, well, the code came out in 1930, but it was forcibly instructed in 1934. If you don't know about the Hollywood code.
Well, the thing about this one is that it got they tried to not make it. They didn't allow it to be made, I think, twice because of all the code antics at the time. So they were like, no, it's just there's too much violence, there's too much sex, there's too much innuendo. We don't like the idea of the infidelity and them not getting their comeuppance, because in the book they kill themselves. They don't. It's not the same fate as in the movie. So if they were going to shoot it how the book was written, it was they were like, nobody learns a lesson, so fuck this movie. We can't, whatever.
You have to that's the thing with the code. You have to learn a lesson. But I was reading that earlier.
You have to learn a lesson. Somebody's always got to learn a lesson.
Billy Wilder did shoot an alternative ending where that happened, and then they were like, no.
They were too much of that too. We don't like that.
But then
either.
also I don't know, but isn't suicide and mutually killing each other because you can't live with the insane.
The ending that he shot was the gas chamber, and he said it was because he's supposed to get the gas. He's supposed to get the gas chamber or whatever. And he even said it was the best sequence in the movie, that he was shot incredibly, that it was really well done, put together, etc. In reality, it's even funnier because now you just get a gay ending, where you just get a gay ending, where it's just these two guys being like,
I love you, Eddie G.
Love you more. That kind of thing. It was always, you were too smart. I was obsessed with how smart and good. It was so crazy how you solved the whole thing. It was very.
I know, it really was. I'm really dying in the office right now. So spoiler: MacMurray dies in the office, but he's really what? I'm just really infatuated with how Eddie G worked his magic.
I mean, you really are. Are you the greatest detective? It's very it ends up being that, which is funnier because it's just it's just the gayest ending you can think of. It's just oh, you're so smart, Edward, and whatever.
But also he almost got away with it because of the other guy. But yeah, so anyways, back to
but then he grew a conscience growing a slight conscience.
Slight, but it's too
slight. But
I feel Fred MacMurray kind of always had a conscience. I want to say a little bit running through it, because he suffered internally with it,
they commit the crime, they kill her husband, put him on the tracks, and then leave each other and say, well, this is the beginning of but the beginning of our lives together. That's gonna that'll start once this is all cleared up or whatever. And then he says it himself. He says, I was a dead man walking into the office the next day, et cetera. Just like the guilt was from pretty much the minute they left each other. The guilt was eating at him. So again, bound to fuck this up because he's nothing if not a buffoon.
Literally a buffoon who also thought he was too smart. But that's like one of my favorite quotes in the movie. Like after he's walking, after he kills the husband, he's like, "It's for the first time I couldn't hear my own footsteps," which is like he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm a fucking dead man walking."
Yeah, dead man walking.
I mean, he knew that though. He knew what he was getting into. Like, and there's that moment, like, so like halfway through, he's like. She stops calling him. She's like, I can't get him on the train. I think it's off. And he has like such a sick sense of relief. He's like,
yeah,
thank God. But like, the second she calls back, he's like, we're fated. We're fucking doomed.
Yeah. But plus also like, there's no way I'm not going to go through with this because, nothing if not a complete fool for you, which he is,
A literal fucking fool.
It's a literal fool.
But like, she's like, I think Barbara Stanwyck in this movie is quite literally like the perfect depiction of like a cold-hearted, detached femme fatale.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the quote that pretty much sums her up is the quote that it's the only quote I wrote where it's just, no, I never loved you, Walter, not you or anybody else. I'm rotten to the heart. I used you just as you said. That's all you ever meant to me. Until a minute ago when I couldn't fire that second shot. Because this is after, again, another spoiler alert for a 100-year-old movie. She shot him. She shoots him at the end. And then he goes, sorry, babe, I'm not buying it. And then he proceeds to shoot her because he knows if you didn't get her, she was definitely going to get him. Because that only went but so far because she was able to fire the first shot. So it's like, she probably end up being able to fire a second shot.
No, she was definitely good, but like also...
Yeah. Yeah, but it was also just like, just bullshit. The bullshit that she had him on. Even the flipping over to the Italian kid and using him for what he could do for her. Like, she is the cold-hearted femme fatale, who also kind of, I guess, through, again, another, like, 2025 lens, also just, like, hey, I'm a woman, and I have to kind of do what I got to do to get these things done and get what I need, get what I want, escape from the, I guess, like, tyranny of, like, being a nurse before, and then now being a wife, like, kind of, a kind of, just not abandoned wife, but mostly, I guess, kind of, so it's like...
Because she always mentions, like, oh, he loves his daughter more than me, and then also she's fucking pissed because he gets in the oil business, and she's like, well, now he's not rich anymore. Like,
now he's losing his money.
Like, exactly. I killed his wife because I was a nurse, so that I could come up in the world and get this guy, and then this guy loses all of his money and doesn't pay enough attention to me, and like you're talking about at one point, she's like, oh,
which, like, which is like, let's be real, she killed the wife not because she was interested in him at all for any other reason besides the money. So it's just like, she's like, I don't even like you anyway, so now you're broke. It's like, what a bummer. You need to go.
Which is like, again, a classic, like, and I'm like, as a woman, I'm like, cool, go get your bag, girl, but like, also, hey. Probably not. There has to be like some moral ambiguity. I'm not going to kill somebody to get it. I might just harm my way to get it, but like, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean,
also relatable.
Well, see, there you go. That's where we get into problems. That's not good. Maybe that's not the best.
So, but like, also, well, these themes of the movie exist because, like, these are things we deal with in our real life.
They've happened in real life. That's true. But yeah, I think that was a big part of, that's another part of why this is a classic. That's why, why it is so held in such regard, because it's the archetype of, the femme fatale who's like, it's crazy because I guess at the time they thought, oh, well, she's just a cold-hearted woman. And she's like, she said, what is it? I'm rotten to the heart. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. But in reality, it's just now it's looked at as kind of like, female empowerment and, feminism. It's like Stanwyck the feminist icon. Like, I mean, that's kind of what it is, basically.
I mean, kind of. And Fred Murray's a typical fool. I mean, but like also she is scary. I mean, I don't want to be friends with her, but like also, kind of a fucking icon. And like, I don't know, like when she shoots him, that's one of my favorite scenes when he's like, okay, let's draw the curtains now. And then...
Got him.
The Venetian blinds, I feel like, have a lot of symbolism in this movie because they bring them up all the fucking time.
Bring them up all the time. They shot them specifically to look like so dramatic, and they like put dust and like aluminum powder in the air to like make them look even dustier and crazy. Like, I believe that's what it was. Like, that combo, which again feel great for their lungs in 1944. Same as like a kind of Wizard of Oz situation. Just just breathing in aluminum powder, no biggie. But you got to do what you do for the shot. So
You do what you do for the shot.
you do what you do for the shot.
Nobody was really worried about those chemicals back then. But yeah, there's
exactly.
the beginning of the scene, they like bring up the Venetian blinds and they're like, oh, just like enough for a little bit of light to get in.
Yeah.
I feel like that theme always in noir in general runs through, but it's also like,
yeah.
because he's kind of the little bit of light that gets in. Kind of. He has a little bit of light in, and like objectively is pure darkness. Really, there's really nothing good going on about this woman.
I mean, yeah, because her whole life at this point is, I mean, she's kind of painted herself into this corner where she killed the wife to get to the husband. Then the husband fucks up his whole thing, and then she's like stuck with him and the daughter. And what was it? It was like she even said it, and she even mentioned it in the beginning when they were talking about the like insurance plans, where he's like, "Well, she'll get all the money anyway." So it's like, she's really painted herself into this corner, and then she's like trying to, get her way out, and she's like, "Well, this is going to be the way," which like be trying to do that by any means at that point in time, I feel like is just admirable. Like, no means, no way to do it, but like, she's at least she had an idea of what it was, where she's like, well, I'm not gonna just be another miserable housewife and be stuck here with this old man and his little daughter.
But she's definitely running the show, and at the end, like, she's gaslighting him in the store. She's like, I didn't do it. You're the one who came up with the plan. So
yeah, exactly.
Like, because he's trying to blame her, because now they're pissed at each other because she's fucking the daughter's boyfriend to like get him to kill Fred MacMurray, probably.
Yeah.
And then Fred MacMurray's also running around with the daughter, which is like ironic because like, she's also the light, and in the end he kind of ends up like falling for her a little bit.
Oh yeah, he was definitely like in the zone, like where he was like, oh, I'm doing it to like, soften her up or whatever. But it's like, I feel like you're into her because you're like, that's actually where you live, Fred MacMurray. You're more flubber than like Nightmare Alley or whatever the hell. You're more that than bogey.
Like this is like, I feel like the roles in this movie were very interesting just based on the actors, because I like read that Barbara Stanwyck didn't want to play a role this heavy, which is ironic because she went on to do like almost nothing but noirs after, like she did really dark movies after this. Like she's like an invalid in a room, and the whole thing is she can only answer the phone. Her husband's trying to kill her, and blah blah blah. And then there's the one where she witnesses the murder, and Vincent Price is in it. Anyway, she's in a bunch of like dark movies after this, but like this was one of her first roles, which is funny because pre-Code she was also in a lot of movies that did like moral ambiguity, but like pre-Code was always kind of like slutty girl meets gangster, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But like they weren't technically like noirs. But then like Fred MacMurray is like was always kind of being the funny ones too. He wasn't.
Yeah, he's the goofy cad, if you will. And it's like, and then this, so he did this, and then what was it? Meet Me on the Bounty, and like one more or whatever, and that was pretty much it. And then he everybody was like, you can't keep being nobody trusts you anymore. Maybe.
But yeah, it's interesting because like nobody played their traditional roles, and then Eddie G's being the good guy, which is like again super
love it. Again, love it.
Like, wish there was more of that, honestly, because I'm obsessed with Eddie G.
Well, I mean, he's great in this. I mean, he just gets to show off his he really gets to show off his like intellectual dynamo, and like all these like great like reams of script that he just like goes, he gets to go off and be the smartest person in the room the entire time, which is pretty funny, except for maybe like a couple of times where he's like a little bit behind, but then he catches up, and it's just like, oh, we knew you were gonna get there at some point, blah, blah, blah.
Right. But like, he does miss it at one point, because the time when Fred MacMurray breaks into his office and he's like, okay, what does he have on me? What does he have on me?
Sure.
Listening to the tape, and he's like, but Eddie G's smart. He's like, I've just been waiting because this is like what does he say? He's like, he says something like, people always think that this is not directly quoted, but he's like, people always think that when there's two people involved in a murder, it's smarter. And he's like, but at the end, you end up falling 2 times harder because somebody always slips up and somebody always causes the other.
Exactly.
So he's like, oh, I've just been waiting for her to meet up with the guy. So, because obviously she's going to meet up with the guy, but the fact that she's now meeting up with Lola, the daughter's boyfriend, Nino, Zarchetti, instead of him, like, kind of throws him off Fred MacMurray's trail, because he's like, oh shit, I found the guy.
Yeah.
But he still goes back to her and fucks it up, because I feel like, I don't know. I feel like there's an alternate reality where if Fred MacMurray had any fucking brains and stopped going back to this girl, they kind of could have he could have like had them both. Like, they could have both killed each other and like blamed it on them, and Fred MacMurray could have got off scot-free, kind of.
I don't know. I feel like at the end of the day, she was gonna always rat whoever the hell it was that was like gonna be. She was gonna always find a scapegoat, whether it was with Nina or with Fred MacMurray. What are the two?
But like technically, if her and Nino turned on each other, and then Fred MacMurray could have just skip into this.
But listen. Stop trying to create alternate endings. That's not how this works, and that's not what happened.
That's not what happens.
That's not what happened.
My theories and philosophies are invalid right now.
You're really trying to, push this agenda of, you're just trying to get Fred MacMurray off for some reason, and I don't know why.
I don't know why. I think like
because he's a fool and he deserves what he got.
That's true. That's true. And also greedy, because the greed is usually because like I don't know.
Because he didn't have to do it on the train. They could have
exactly
$50,000.
Because this is the where the double indemnity comes in. He's like, well, we can double the insurance clause if it's an accident on the train. Like that's where
he's thinking about $50K for himself. Dirty dog.
Exactly. So like, and then what does he say? He's like, I did it for the money and the love, and I didn't get the girl or the money. And it's like, yeah,
exactly.
Fucking greedy.
Yeah, because that's what happens. You could have done it, easy peasy somewhere else and just, split it or whatever. But again,
she would have never split the money with anyone. I mean, even that $100,000, she was out.
Oh, she was gonna kill him. I feel like no matter what.
No matter what, his fate was doomed.
He was done. He was cooked.
Which, yeah, again, I mean, like, a lot of these noir films are about fate and just, like, it's like, a lot of the themes in here are, like, fate versus free will. It's like, do you have free will? Because at one point he says, what does he say? I really like this.
Yeah.
He's like, I was all twisted up inside and I was still holding on to that red hot poker. And right then it came over me that I hadn't walked out on anything at all. That the hope was too strong, that this wasn't the end between her and me. It was only the beginning. And it's like this inevitable damnation. So, yeah.
Inevitable damnation.
Inevitable damnation. Like, again, fate versus...
That could have been the alternate title, honestly. Inevitable damnation.
Kind of like that. If we ever remake this movie, which we won't.
No. Which it has been remade, but...
Has it?
I'm not watching that. It's 1973.
I know, you have all these facts.
It came up on, funny enough, because when I rented it, it came up on the Amazon thing as a second option. And I was like, and I think it might have been, I wouldn't be shocked if it was like the free version, but it was remade in TV movie, 1973.
Oh no, and it was a TV movie to boot. I don't know.
Hey, TV movies used to, Richard Crenna, Lee Cobb. Samantha Egger was the Phyllis Dietrichson.
That's fucking insane. All right, well, maybe I'll have to watch that one day, but not today.
Steven Bochco wrote the the teleplay. Who he came up with NYPD Blue, I believe. No, Hill Street Blues, LA Law. Yeah, NYPD Blue. He's done a bunch of cop stuff.
And then you're telling me this is based on a book. Wasn't this also based on a real life murder?
It was. It was based on a murder in I cannot remember where. Hold on. This is where we cut around
because our research is not
Well, because I didn't think you were going to get into the actual one, but hold on, it is right here. Wait, hold on, it's right here. It is based on, where is it? It's based on Queens. He based his novella on a 1927 murder perpetrated by a married couple, a married lady in Queen, or a married lady. I don't know. This has a grammatical error, but a married Queens, New York woman and her lover, whose trial he attended whilst working as a journalist in New York. In that crime, Ruth Snyder persuaded her boyfriend, Judd Gray, to kill her husband, Albert, after having him take out a big insurance policy with a double indemnity clause. The murderers were quickly identified, arrested, and convicted. The front page photo of Snyder's execution in the electric chair at Sing Sing, taken secretly from a hidden camera, has been called the most famous news photo of the 1920s. So yeah, that's...
We're going to have to get this photo for lore. Well, basically, executions were gnarly, but no, I think that's I don't know. I think that's great that it's based on a real life murder. Yeah, fucking awesome, fantastic, love that.
They say truth is stranger than fiction. This guy. Well, it's funny because the guy who wrote this also wrote The Postman Always Rings Twice,
which is fucking iconic movie.
Another great one. Another great one.
Which we'll cover that at some point.
Another great couple of movies because I've seen both. and I like them both.
I like them both too, which is like rare. I don't always like the remake.
The Jack Nicholson one, and I don't remember the original one. I was hoping you would come with
Monitor and John Garfield.
John Garfield, yeah.
Which is an iconic movie, which I'm sure we'll cover at some point because
we could, yeah. And then there's the Jack Nicholson and Jessica Lange.
Yeah, Jessica Lange.
Yeah, it's Jessica Lange, right? Yeah,
Fucking love, by the way.
Yeah, that was a great one, and I think I have that book. I don't know if I have that book. That's a shame. I should get it.
Let's give your reaction of the first time person seeing it. You've never seen it. I've seen this movie like 8,000 times.
8,000 times. Sorry. To me, it was great. It's one of those things where you're going in to something quality because it's Billy Wilder, and it's a classic. I think I was telling you before. I've always known it. It was a blind spot. I hadn't seen it, but I'd always known it from the I Love Lucy episode. Oh. Or I think it was not even. I don't even think it's I Love Lucy. I think it's the Lucy. I think it's the Lucy Does Comedy Hour. It's one of the two. It's one of the goddamn Lucys. Where they moved to California because Desi's doing some show out in California or whatever. And then she meets Fred MacMurray in like the lobby of a hotel, if I'm not mistaken. And he's like, "Oh, like pleasure to meet you, Lucy," because I think Desi introduces them. Somebody says something about like whatever, and she goes, "Oh, I've seen Double Indemnity. I know like not to trust you, basically." And it's just like, damn, cold-blooded, Lucy. Like really showing that oh man, you could really change your public perception with one movie. Where it's just like, damn, you used to be Mr. Goofy Fred MacMurray, now you're Mr. Double Indemnity, and nobody can trust you.
Yeah. So anyway, you liked it, obviously. I was stoked that you liked it because I know you told me after, you were like, yeah, pretty much great, good choice. No notes.
Yeah.
You have Brian has a really strong opinion about things, which is great.
I don't know. The way you said it didn't make it seem like it, but okay.
No, it's great. I'm just saying, like, you be more critical than I will. I'll be like, I loved it. It made me feel like butterflies and sunshine. And you'll be like, listen, Leila, that's not how it goes.
Well, I mean, that's true.
It wasn't conceptual. Like, you would know. You'd be like, it wasn't conceptually sound. I'd be like, well, I thought that the cat was cute and it made me feel something inside, which is enough for me. And you'd be like, well, actually, it was trash. So yes, when I bring up a movie you've never seen, of course, like.
But again, it's I haven't seen. It's like I haven't seen it because it's a blind spot, not because I know it's bad or anything. It's just like, I just haven't gotten around to that one. But I know obviously this is considered a classic for a reason. Plus, it's also not so. It's not something. It's not like the type of thing that I wouldn't watch anyway. So it's it was like maybe exactly. I was kind of in the bag for it anyway.
Which is like I mean a lot. I feel like a lot of these films we cover on here will have like so not almost. Because like it has an almost 90, like 100% like rate. It's like 97. Yeah. If you read the critics review, everyone's like amazing. Like this guy's like the finest picture ever made of its kind, and I make that flat statement without any fear of getting indigestion later from eating my words. Like people basically just fucking love it. So if you haven't seen it, obviously go.
Exactly, fully. Just genuinely a good time. Where it's just like well written, well acted, and put together so expertly that it's like, of course, this is like an undeniable. It's a masterpiece of the genre, and if you have any kind of interest in any film noir at all, it's like, well, give this one a shot because it's good. I mean, it's as pretty much as archetypal film noir as humanly possible.
Right, and that's why I wanted to start this podcast with this, because we're going to cover some weird ass fucking movies as we go along.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Like my suggestion for week 2?
I'm so fucking stuffed.
To be honest, this whole episode is a tester to see like how we're gonna edit and how we're gonna cover films or whatever. But in reality, it's all just a bullshit gambit to get to episode 2 because I suggested a movie that Leila had never seen and is a modern noir, and now she won't shut up about it.
I can't shut up about it. Like I'm so deep in the lore.
This episode's literally just a placeholder for number 2.
This episode was supposed to be like not that until I saw this fucking movie, and now I'm just like, I don't care. I just want to talk about it.
Yeah, it's great. So that'll be fun. But yes, as we continue to cover, again, I like the idea, just to give a heads up, it's like where it's like we will be covering things that are, I don't want to sound crazy and make it sound boring, but almost like academic like this, where it's just like, of course you watch this, of course you talk about this. This is like the number one noir to talk about besides like fucking Maltese Falcon. I don't know, like that.
Guess.
Like
We all know that like is not my favorite movie.
yeah, I guess you're not a big fan of it, but then there's other ones, like I said, like the episode number 2, which is very much I'm just gonna go out and I'm just gonna straight up say it, a new classic, and noir, but in the, I don't even want to say the loosest sense of the word. It's pretty like it's got a lot of the
noir. It's just not
it's got a lot of the tenets, and it's very seated in that world. It's just I don't know, the guys who like wear fedoras still and like are calling chicks dames. Maybe they're not thinking it's their idea of a noir, but it really is. I don't know who those people are, by the way. I'm just making up an archetype of a dude. Who's a guy that does not exist in the world.
I think if someone actually said about this, they're like, yeah, it's just another movie, like a great movie about a fool in a fedora chasing a dame.
I mean, which is truly what it is. I mean, it's genuinely that. Which is like great, honestly. There's always room for that kind of thing. There's always, and I think we're gonna try to push the borders of what is allowed, because there's other things where it's just like, oh well, of course.
Oh, I'm already trying to push it into like new wave, which isn't a thing. So
which is not a kid. Which won't happen. Not happen.
This is a film noir podcast. Which was hard.
You were like, what did you say the other day? You were like, Breathless counts, right? And I was like,
I swear to God, I want Breathless to count, but it doesn't, and I understand, and we're not ever going to cover Breathless, much to my dismay, but it's okay.
That's a different podcast.
To be honest, this whole thing was my idea to make it noir, so I guess I have to like shut the fuck up and just deal with it. Because
sometimes you have to deal with the rules of your own making.
I made them. Yeah.
I mean, I mentioned The Postman Always Rings Twice, which again brought us into another noir, because it is.
Because it is, actually.
Because it is. Honestly, I would go into the more, I would even call that, I don't know, I feel like that's not like a subgenre, I'm just making up subgenres, but I would call it like almost like the more like erotic noir or like romantic noir, you know what I mean? Like, there's not so much like a heady like, oh, insurance scam and da da da. It's like, oh no, it's just like these two want to fuck and all like that. Which is like, my husband sucks. Like I like this hot stranger, Jack Nicholson.
But that's kind of this movie though. My husband sucks. I want to manipulate this stranger.
I know, but then you get into
at the end of the day kind of just wants to fuck.
I know, which I was reading in, I think it was like the Roger Ebert review where they were just like it's the Hays Code, so you can't really. And he was like, we assume they like fuck once, do they? Maybe like
right. Well, I feel like with this movie too, like, even the murder is so like I had to rewind.
Well, the murder, okay, so that's what was brought up in there too, which was like so great because they just say, or maybe it was the other essay I read that was like where it was just like, oh, the like most beautiful, like the most powerful acting in the entire movie is her face as her husband's getting murdered, because you see this like ecstasy on her face where she's just kind of like exhilarated by the murder and the possibilities that it's going to lead to, and
right. She's totally like, I'm getting my bag.
I'm getting my way. Plus, also the thing of like, I also am like not having to do it myself. Like somebody else is handling it for me. Like the whole thing.
But then, like even when she puts the crutches on the railroad, like I swear she's like has a giddy bounce to her. She's like,
yeah, no. So her whole in that entire sequence, her entire energy is very like, we're doing this thing. It's like,
it's honestly like the only time she's like light in the movie because she's so dark and so stoic and so dramatic and so like, you know, she's just got
the fruition, the fruition of it, happening and it getting done, and then
she totally goes back to being a cold-hearted bitch. But like, there's like that inner child youth.
Well, because she has to be, because she's just like, oh god, now I have to deal with this doofus and his like,
now I have to kill off all the guys.
I have to deal with this doofus and like, his undying love for me, even though he's just met me, and be like fucked once, maybe, you know. I mean,
which again, is like for funny. Me as a woman, totally relatable.
Get out of here, go away.
I'm like, oh no, I asked a man for something, and now I have to deal with the fact that he's following me around like a Fred MacMurray puppy dog.
A Fred MacMurray, if you will. Yeah, exactly.
Like, how do I deal with that? Now, in the modern age, we usually just like ghost them or something. Like I have never had to result to murder, but again, like relatable.
I mean, imagine. Listen, if you had to listen, I feel like it was easily up to her to ghost him too. If you have to go down to the drugstore, goddamn, to the phone booth to call.
Yeah, as much as she's like, I never loved you, she's like also addicted to the thrill of it because again, she doesn't have to keep calling him. She doesn't have to go to the drugstore every day. It's like, I mean,
Suffice it to say,
she's addicted to the
she's living
attention and the
for the
power.
drama.
I mean, like, but they both are. They're both addicted to the attention and the power.
They're two mess queens, if you will. I mean, they really are. But yeah, that's that was something that was like brought up. But also, okay, so back to the point of the like, see, but this is more of a convoluted insurance scheme, murder plot thing, instead of like The Postman Always Rings Twice, where it's like, we're lustily longing for each other and the promise of a better life and something that we currently don't have. Whereas this is like, she's like that the entire way, but it's also me, 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 me. She's like, if fucking MacMurray comes or not, I'm going to throw him off the train myself at some point, but whatever. She's like, I'm trying to get my shit situated and make sure that I'm okay and make sure that I'm taken care of because nobody's looking out for me but me. And this little bitch daughter is certainly not going to let me live, whatever. Right. So it's, there's a difference. Whereas, like, I think with something like The Postman Always Rings Twice or...
there's more, like, genuine love.
Yeah, there's just, like, genuine love and, like, kind of... And just love and lust and like, want for a mutual, getting this mutual goal and running with that.
Yeah, where this one's more like lust and seduction and like a power grab, like, because like again, who's manipulating who? I don't know. They both think that they're manipulating each other. I would say like Fred MacMurray's definitely more manipulated, but also he like gets all stoked about it and like starts to get an ego a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I know insurance. Like I can cheat the system. Comes up with this whole elaborate plan. Like
that's what
really
he
powerful.
says in the beginning. That's definitely one of the things he says in the beginning, where he's like, I've always thought about like how I could do it or how I could pull it off. And oh, you've been thinking like she's like trying to do this for herself, and he's trying to do it he's trying to do it so that he could like prove to himself that he can outsmart the system. And it's just like,
and also Eddie G, who he's in love with, like maybe he just wants to be smarter than the guy he's in love with. I don't know.
Yeah, he just wants to prove to his real boy toy that he I got the smarts to pull it off. Yeah, when in reality, like no, he doesn't.
Which is so fucking fucked up because like poor Eddie G's just trying to help you, give you a better job. Eddie G comes
literally vouches for him on the dictaphone. He's like, I vouch for him wholeheartedly. And then
also, like, before any of this happens, he's like, I want to see him in a better position of power. Yeah. The job offers him this job. Fred MacMurray's, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, because he wants to go chase hoes in the valley and, or on, what is it on Quebec Drive?
Oh, yeah.
Turn it onto Quebec Drive and goddamn,
Is that just where they lived in real life, or was that where this was actually filmed?
No, so that house, I don't know if that house is still there. I'd imagine so. Because that's what I read, is that the house is still there at Quebec Drive, but they are still there. Which
1925 North Kingsley Drive in Hollywood is where Fred MacMurray's apartment is, and 6301 Quebec Drive in the Hollywood Hills is where Barbara Stanwyck's house
there we go.
Like, those are still available to visit, which I'm going to visit because I live in LA and Brian doesn't, and I can go stalk all the movie sets.
Okay, no need to rub it in my face. Okay.
Yes, always.
Oh, that was another thing that they were saying that, like, I believe it was, like, Raymond Chandler, who we have not mentioned once, who wrote this with Billy Wilder. The great Raymond Chandler. He apparently a bunch of the locations were places that he would go, like that drugstore was at the supermarket that they meet at was a place where they would go. He would go and like shop there, and he like hung out at the drugstore, like shit like that. So like that's always interesting too, and bringing in real life. You just again adding a certain je ne sais quoi to this thing where it's just like not a bunch of generic stuff that doesn't exist, but a bunch of places that do exist, and him folding that into bringing it in as their meeting places and, where they're doing their secret rendezvous and such.
Right. And again, like, even just with the story itself, this has just like a whole lot of rooted in reality with the locations, like you're saying, and then also the fact that it's based on a real murder. There's like photos, which is like, I don't think there's going to be a billion movies we cover that don't have like really any roots in reality other than just like the concepts and themes that.
Yeah. I mean, like I'm sure there's going to be a handful, but like, I mean, in reality, yeah, to be kind of like I mean, it's usually known as like a rip from the headlines thing. It's pretty crazy because it's like, for something to be such a kind of convoluted concept, for it to be ripped from the headlines in real life is pretty wild. And it also just goes to show how, how people will do whatever they think they need to do to,
Which I honestly think that's why noir is like my favorite category of movies, because it's just like the moral ambiguity, it's like the lust, the seduction, the passion, and also like I just me, I'm like a toxic bitch when it comes to relationships. I understand that. Just the fact that like how your ideology and delusion of love makes you do fucking batshit crazy things is gonna always be like one of my favorite themes in life, because you know it deals with my life, reality, justice, like how do we, you know, unfortunately, which we'll cover like some foreign films, which like I like that because unfortunately with the code, justice always prevails in these themes, and I'm sorry. So in this movie, I wasn't rooting for any of them, but like there will be a lot of movies we cover where I'm genuinely rooting for the quote-unquote bad guy to win.
Same. I mean, I have a similar compulsion to sometimes root for probably the worst person, but like you said, a lot of, especially, you know, all this like this code era stuff, you're not going to get the satisfaction of, which is a real perverse thing that's like become a thing where it's like we're the perverse satisfaction of the bad guy winning sometimes, which, you know, sometimes that really can be.
We all love an anti.
There are certain films in which there's no other way to end the film but on a bummer note, on a sour note. And on a note, because it's just like, you know, it's like, well, if you want to, movies have the great distinction of showing us things that are fantastical and the best version of how things can be, but then also it's like the responsibility a lot of times is to reflect things that are going on in life, and it's like things don't end happily ever after all the time, so it's nice to get that. It's almost satisfying sometimes when the bad guy wins and, you know, evil prevails, and that's, and you know,
well, I mean,
just
like, again,
the thing
like,
of that's
I don't
just
like
how
it when it's
sometimes.
like pure evil, but it's like, you know, like just like I like it when it's like the underdog who's doing something literally just out of like sheer desperation, and,
Sure.
and it's like, yeah, you want that guy to win, and am I saying like murder and crime waves are necessarily the way to get it? No, but it's like, I don't know, I'll always root for the underdog in life.
Yeah,
except for not really in this movie, because I feel like these people are just fucking idiots and had like ego problems and really just we're on a power trip.
No, I mean we were rooting for. I mean, there's like a slight rooting for Stanwyck because you realize that she is, especially as a woman in the 90s, like just like a true, like kind of, you know, a minority, and like a married to this older guy and all this stuff. I mean, she put herself in the position, but then it's like the audacity to want to free herself from it is something to be celebrated to a certain degree.
In that sense, I totally root for her. I just think, you know, but again, I think, that's just like a level of desperation. It's like your circumstances and the time and your position put you in this place. And then she's already committed one murder. So it's like, I don't know, you're kind of already in at that point. Like once you already do the one, it's like, I don't know, you're kind of committed to this like insane entanglement that you've made for yourself. And now you've already proven that you'll do literally anything because you already murdered this man's wife to marry him. Yeah, I mean, there's really no ends which you go to, but yeah, I mean, you know, we'd love to see a woman thriving. I don't know.
We do. That's what I'm saying. I don't know why you're being very anti-feminist. I don't.
Like there are definitely movies where I'm gonna be like, yeah, go get it, girl. And this one, I'm just like, you know what? I don't know. You're kind of crazy.
This one's a little too crazy. She's just a little too crazy.
I think when we get back to like when it's a true love story and they do crazy shit together, I feel for it more. It's just like she doesn't give a fuck about anybody but herself, which again, understandable. But it just like without the element of like real feelings and you actually having empathy for other people, like you kind of lose me as a person in general and a character. So I think that's why she's harder.
All right, there you go. I got it.
I do have some morals.
I was a little shocked with this one because I thought you had a little more sympathy for old Babs. You know?
I have weird guidelines of who I root for in life, as we all know.
Noted.
All right, so like, are we pretty much good with this movie? Should we?
I feel like we're done. I don't think there's like, the thing is, it's like kind of, it's not to say that it's lightweight because it's certainly not lightweight. It's like so well done and so like,
yeah, I feel like,
but it's just like there's not like, it's like if you've seen it, you've seen it. The nuances are there.
All right, well, pretty much. You get the gist. We fucking both love this movie. It's a classic film noir. I personally think if you're just diving into film noir, again, this is why I started with this movie.
Absolutely, like, great starting point, for sure.
Like, especially, like, if you're new to the category, because I know, like, not everyone is a nerd for film noir like me, then this is, like, a perfect dive. That's pretty much it. Go watch the movie if you haven't. Tune in next week. We're going to be covering Under the Silver Lake, 2018, directed by who? David
Robert Mitchell. We're really going for it. So we're doing as classic as possible and something from like right before pandemic, you know.
So, like if you like this rampage and you like us, like follow the show, it's at Shrouded Alley on Instagram, all the things.
Yeah,
Shrouded
exactly.
Alley. Yeah, follow us on Spotify, Instagram, all the things. Again, we're gonna go kind of all over the place. It's all gonna be noir, but we will jump around. We'll give you a classic that you should go watch, and then we're gonna fuck your mind up with Under Their Silver Lakes. Like, if you start listening to this and like it, and there's specific films you want to hear us cover, just shoot us a fucking message on our Instagram.
That's true. We are open to suggestions. We are also always listening to suggestions, listening to and open to suggestions. Just remember, if it's like French New Wave, no, just don't suggest Breathless because that's not a thing.
Anyways, we love you.
I'd say don't be afraid to walk down the Shrouded Alley.
Yeah.
There you go. Bye-bye.